I haven't read a setup book that I enjoyed its plot more than this one.
The world feels real. The world has layers, depth to it.
Emphasizing really impressive prose. Debut author.
Throughout the entire book, every scene, every chapter, every character, there's conflict. There's conflict between friends. There's conflict between enemies, allies, everything.
Yes.
Lovely. No. Welcome everyone to the Toot Around podcast. My name is Richard.
My name is By Austin.
And we are reading By Blood, By Salt.
By oh by.
By oh by. By JL by Odom by.
That could get real annoying.
There's a lot of buys in this title.
There's only two.
There's two. It's too many is what it was.
I actually do like it goes off that linguistic track of you always see the blank of the blank, or you always see Of Blood and Fire, The Lord of the Rings, all these By Blood, By Soul. I don't see a lot of buys.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're going.
Anyway, By Blood, By Salt is 2024's
SPFBO.
Damn it.
So close.
I'll get it one of these days.
Self-published fantasy blog off is what it stands for. Yep.
There we go. That's the winner 2024's award, and also part of our reading list for the championship awards that are coming at the end of this year.
We are a part of the Contest of Champions. We're reading all the winners of this competition for self-published fantasy. This one was the most recent winner, and we get to judge and rank them. We've already covered the Sword of Kaigen, and we've covered Orconomics, and we have it in that order. Or we have Sword of Kaigen first, Orconomics second, and we're going to spoiler-free review this for 10 minutes, let you know our ranking, let you know what we think about it, and then give you a full spoiler review of By Blood, By Salt, Let's do this. So, anything else you wanted to get some information out there that I cut you off too early?
No, other than right before recording, you told me that you've seen the author of this book in our comments section for like years.
Yeah.
So
JL Odom, shout out.
Hey, JL Odom.
Hey.
How you doing?
I
hope we're making you nervous. I hope the thumbnail was made just right. We're going, I don't know. I hope we made you nervous a little bit.
What does Rich think? Oh. Yeah, so I know the author's probably going to be watching this at some point, too. We should go have an interview at some point, too. Hey,
it'd be great.
We'll have to talk. So, spoiler-free book info. The author, J.L. Odom, who wrote this book came out in 2024. Most important thing, does watch the podcast, so clearly great taste and great human being. But this is great to know. So J.L. Odom was in the Marine Corps as a linguist for 5 years, and her description on Goodreads, it makes so much sense when you read this book. Her description on Goodreads, as author says, after a 5-year stint in the Marine Corps as an Arabic linguist, she graduated from GWU, close to us, with a degree in international affairs, focusing on conflict and security. She lives with her husband and 5 children wherever it is that the U.S. Army happens to send them. Her hobbies include running, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and cooking meals for a crowd. And when you get to, we're going to give you some descriptions and spoiler-free pitch of the book, but this was selected by Captured in Words. Shout out to Captured in Words, who nominated this book to get picked. And a lot of fellow booktubers you'll see out there have reviews of this book, By Blood, By Salt, as well. So Philip Chase, shout out Philip Chase, Tori Tekken, and several others, which we'll get to. But what is the book, Rich? What is the concept of the book, and to get people interested in By Blood, By Salt?
Sure. The concept of the book, where you have a couple different POVs, but I would say your main character is a character named Azetla, a Mashavi in the nation where basically Mashavis are persecuted to the degree of, by law, anyone can kill a Mashavi for basically any reason, and it's passable. So they are not second-class citizens, but like 7th-class citizens. They're below everyone. Azetla, though, is a part of this standing army, part of the Black Wren. And so you get to investigate, why is he in the army of the society that basically persecutes him and his people? And along with that, you have a political intro, like hijinks ensue from there. But it is a wonderful, wonderful exploration of history, prejudice, but not in the I'm really sorry to like make this early comparison, but I'm right out of the gate.
To what?
I mean, Blood over Brighthaven.
Oh.
To me, like how that book handles persecution and prejudice, I think just falls beneath the bar and doesn't really rise to the challenge. This book does. This book handles both sides of this generational racial conflict with such intrigue and finesse. So that is like the heart of this story from different angles.
Yeah, we're definitely the theme portion of this when we get into spoilers we'll be talking a lot about, yes. I imagine. Yeah, this is a more slow burn military fantasy. You can categorize it as Middle Easternish setting. The world's also fascinating as well, really well done. And to get you to set your expectations going into this book. So military fantasy, pretty short-ish book as well. Mm-hmm. I think the same as Rich. The oppressed versus oppressor theme is very clearly done in this book, and it's done with nuance. It's done mm-hmm. with actual complexity, and it doesn't just take the easy path out of that. There's an easy way to do that theme. Very easy, and it's way less interesting. Clearly, JL knows what she's talking about, and sorry to go off of her description, but as soon as seeing that she was in the military and as a linguist, and it went, oh, confirmation bias of why I was so invested into these stakes. So, to get you into that perspective as well, as much as we're saying this is a military fantasy, it is a slow burn, and I would set people's expectation by saying it can read more like a prologue. You won't have I don't want to give too much away other than saying it can feel like a setup book plot-wise and allow it to soak and slow burn. So if that's up your alley and you're not looking for something fast-paced, action-y, it's less that, and it's more political intrigue and complex layers with characters that are interesting and you can get invested in. However, it's not going to have your I hope I said that well enough because I want to toe the line, but am I towing the line towed by, towed by correctly?
By the by, toe to toe? Yes. Yeah. I would agree with you with that same sentiment. It does feel more like a prologue book or a setup book. So if you're going in expecting kind of a bombastic ending, this wouldn't be it for you. I would say temper your expectations that you're not going to get that type of ending with this book.
Yep.
But even then, the characters themselves are ones that grow on you. You know, if from the very beginning, I wasn't in love with any of these characters right out of the gate, and there wasn't like a particular scene that made me go, oh, I love these characters, I'm so invested in them. It took time. And so it grew over the course of the book, but by the end, I'm invested in the characters, invested in the story, and I want to read what happens next. Yep. So by the end, it got there, but it was a slow burn.
The very first chapter of this book, Azetla, is this debt conscript in the army for the oppressor, the regime that Azetla is being persecuted by. And the first scene you see is going into this town square of fellow Moshabes. They're also called jackals. That's more the racial slur used against these people. But a Moshabe, like our main character Zetla, is walking through the main town square and sees on this celebration day a bunch of fellow Moshabes are being killed in the town square. And we see Zetla he sees his other people and he sees his people being more enraged by this. And Zetla has this demeanor and character that makes you understand why he's in the position he's in. And also he starts off the book immediately telling to these younglings, hey, beware, be cautious.
Don't rock the boat unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
Don't rock the boat unnecessarily. Like, make sure it counts. Which says a lot about it. His character is very much like the forced stoic.
I see that.
He's not a stoic by nature. He's a stoic by situation and training.
And that's where the book starts off. And then you have your other main plot has to do with character Wesley and James, the Cora James.
Yep.
And so while we have Azetla's point of view, the other main plot line going on is a coup is being staged, and I'll leave it at that. against a coup within the regime itself.
Against Emperor Riata.
So you have both, we see the perspective of people in the oppressor's regime. So we see the people who want a coup, Wesley and James, which we'll see who does want it. And then you have the oppressed, Jackal, and the Amasha Beast perspective of Zetla. So that's your stakes. I would say it's more narrow stakes as well. As much as this is empire coup potentially falling, this book stays more narrow. So keep that in mind too. So I really want to set expectations properly, because you could, if people go into this book with the wrong mindset, could very easily tune off or not like it. Because I know it could be easy. If I read this on a Tuesday, I could be like, oh, I want this.
Yeah.
But I read it on Thursday and I quite liked it.
If someone's coming up to you saying like, oh, this is going to be your military fantasy epic battle stuff,
Exactly.
and then you read this book, you may be disappointed, where it's far more military fantasy in the political sense.
Yes.
A lot of politics within the army.
And shout out to what did some other people say? Oh, by the way, we will have the book in the description below. And if you want to support us as well, affiliate link. Also, our book club for our Patreon, where we do a book every month and we review and talk with you guys on the Discord. That's also in the description. But so what did others think about this book? We have Mark Lawrence, who runs SPFBO, author of a ton of books, of Treb published books. Mark Lawrence says, it's a very well-written book. Sometimes you get debut authors who come... Oh, by the way, debut book. This is J.L. Odom's first book.
Jesus.
Didn't mention that, which makes it very impressive.
Yeah.
So Mark Lawrence says, it's a very well-written book. Sometimes you get debut authors who come out of the gates seemingly full-formed with the most beautiful prose. I feel that Josiah Bancroft was one such, and J.L. Odom is another. Her writing, like the book, subtle, but it's always on point. Line by line, it's powerful and lovely in an understated way. Paragraph by paragraph, the writing is elegant and with a light touch reveals all manners of subtext and delicate interactions between the characters. And I agree with that too. That another thing to focus on is the prose is really well done. The world is really well done. So more of when we're talking about the layers of this book, I think it will appeal more to those readers as well who do appreciate those sorts of things. Because we also have high praise from Philip Chase, who gives us a 9.5 out of 10. Tori Tekken, another booktuber, says this is an absolute masterpiece. I, Samwise, loved it. Now, some did not love it. We can show and display up here. These are the 10 voters. These are the 10 booktubers who voted on By Blood, by Salt. And the lowest rating I got was a 4 out of 10 from Kitty G Books. But the only thing that Kitty G Books, to offset that, Kitty G Books is the one who nominated Sword of Kaigen back in like 2015-16. So even though Kitty G Books is wrong on this one, Sword of Kaigen, she's so right. So, and it had an average of a 7.7 out of 10 rating of the 10 reviewers. So, Rich, our spoiler-free Rambler rating, what did you give it out of 5 stars and why?
Overall, for the official Rambler rating, I gave it a 4.25 out of 5. Really great.
Nice. Really great. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Great book. And I think that we already know where it's going to get placed then.
Yep.
Is because what we do when we're rating SPFBOs, we average Rich and so both of our scores we average. Whichever one's a higher average score, we place that in our ranking of the 10 SPFBO books that we're reading. If there's a tie, we do have tiebreakers, but we don't have to get to that yet. So it goes Sword of Kaigen 1.
By Blood, by Salt.
By Blood, by Salt 2.
Orconomics 3rd.
Because Orconomics, I gave a 4, you gave a 3.75, or 3.5 or 3.75.
3.75, I believe.
So that average lower. So this is second in the ranking of the 3 books so far. And what did you think the best and worst categories were?
I think the best was thought-provokingness, and I would say world building or prose. I'm kind of between those 3.
World building and prose for me is the best. And if there had to be a worst, least best, because obviously you liked it all. Which category was the least best?
I do like it in the sense, but I gave it a little bit of a docking for the nature of it being kind of a setup book. I gave the plot a little bit lower.
Fair.
So it's the least best.
That affected me more. Emotional impact was my lower, just because of that nature of the book.
Sure.
That's it. Okay. So J.L. Odom, the nerves are gone. So you know what we rated the book. But let's now dive deep into everything. So spoiler warning for those who don't want to get spoiled. Go check out the book. Link in the description below. Time to go.
Time to go.
Okay. What did you give emotional impact out of 5 stars?
Emotional impact, I gave a 3.75. Really good.
Same.
Ah, there you go.
That's exactly what I gave it. 3.75.
A little lower
Mm-hmm.
than some of the other categories. So it's not so very often our emotional impact score is roughly the same as our overall.
Yeah.
Tends to be. But
Sometimes, yeah.
in this case, it isn't. So it's a little bit lower. I think that does have to do with it by the end feeling a bit more like a setup book rather than a complete book on its own. So maybe not as satisfying a conclusion. And also it, even though I am now attached to the characters and I'm interested in what they are going to do, I was not emotionally taken in by many of the scenes that maybe should have been more emotional. Especially because they happened earlier on in the story where I wasn't as attached.
And you became more attached over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to care for Captain Hodge's death greatly. I don't know if that was the author's intention. Like, are we supposed to be attached to that character? But I didn't care.
Death of the author, man. Who cares what the author? I do. No.
We do. The author is paramount.
Yes. Hey, whatever JLM says in the comments, that's
what the book means.
It trumps what we say.
Exactly.
Watch our Death of the Author video if you want us to dive into that. But yeah, so should I talk the why not 4 first, and then we'll get to what we like? Okay,
sure.
The why not 4 yet is the payoff of the book. I think as much as we're saying it's a setup book, I guess the payoff could be looked at as in Azetla starts off basically as commander of the Black Wren, or basically a second in command of the Black Wren, but it can't be said out loud. It has to be behind closed doors and can't really be
Acknowledged.
and acknowledged. End of the book is acknowledged, but it's being used as a scapegoat against the cooers, essentially. And so
the cooers?
That sounds like a slur. A jackal. Jackal of cooers. So by the end is put in a position of power, but there's more to it. So I guess if you were saying that what's the arc of the book, that is the arc of the book. So it's not that there's not payoff. It's just there is this feeling of, okay, to be continued. I want to read on, but it wasn't a traditional Act 3 happens and there's this big climax that makes you sit and get emotionally wowed.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not the highest on the emotional side, but then everything leading up to that with what I appreciate so much, all the conflict, all the tension.
Oh, God. What conflict? Throughout the entire book, every scene, every chapter, every character, there's conflict. There's conflict between friends. There's conflict between enemies, allies, everything.
Yes.
Lovely. No.
And
Love the conflict.
I almost feel bad not giving it a 4 because there is so much to the lead up, but I guess what leaves you in your mind is, when I think of a book, I think, okay, how to end. So I'm giving more to the ending just emotionally where all the conflict throughout. So what was your favorite conflict? Was there a certain dynamic that had you more tense?
I think it's Azetla. I really loved Azetla, Joseph, and Sars. Especially because of how...
Sarez. Yeah. Not the Sar Devil. Because they sounded similar, but...
maybe close second or tied.
Yeah.
Everything between, the Sars and Azetla. Fantastic. Great. Love it every time. They're trying to talk and playing a battle of wits and all that fun stuff. But no, the delicate nature of Azetla clearly being friends with Joseph and Joseph being basically his best friend.
Yeah.
And yet that Mashafy hatred is still there for Joseph. If not like for Azetla, but still against Azetla's people, and something that he can't really just turn off. And then you get all the little jabs that Joseph makes toward Azetla, and Azetla has to take it on the chin, especially in the beginning of like, he's a Mashafy, he's a jackal, he can't react to it, but it bothers him, especially this coming from his best friend, and he has to tolerate that.
Yeah.
And Joseph, you get a little bit of like, he kind of believes this, he does believe this stuff, but also you get moments with Joseph and Sarez of him saying, like, why do you only, like, you don't allow other people to call him a jackal, but you do all the time, right to his face. It's going, yeah, because it pisses him off. I just like, such like, wow. I love that. That's a simple like just guy friend dynamic, but in this context, it really doesn't go over well. It really does hurt Azetla. But from Joseph's point of view, he's like, yeah, I do it because it pisses him off.
Yeah, it's when you say all the divorce jokes by my parents of, that doesn't hurt at all. Yeah, I take that right on the chin. Bye, fuck me. No, sorry. I gotta slow down the cursing for children that are reading military fantasies. But, yeah. Okay.
But so I loved all that, especially with Azetla and SARS. If we have the time at the end, when we're talking about Prose and everything, there's a great just scene that I really loved in this book. I'd want to go over.
Yeah. There was. The great part about the setup of the book, too, is that it's just conflict-inducing the whole time of, okay, you have all these hierarchies in power of Azetla being at the top of the bottoms because of all the jackals. Azetla is the highest in power of the seventh, as you were saying earlier, the seventh hierarchy, or just seventh in line. So you have Azetla there. Then you have Haj, who really respects him in the actual battalion, the Black Wren. So that's the structure there. Then you have the actual empire with the Emperor Riata. Mm-hmm. Emperor Riata, who has his brother Cora James, and Wesley, who's the more conniving one. So you have Wesley and James, who are second hierarchy to the generals and empire and actual Riata. So they are not in command, but in the hierarchy, they are lower than the empire. Then they go off and are sent almost as a suicide mission in a sense from the emperor. But they are sent and they have power dynamics over the Black Wren and over Azetla. However, they also have their higher ups to look toward. So why it's way more interesting is every time that Wesley or James and all of them have to make a move in the chessboard, they also have to consider they can't just move the chess pieces at will, because they're also trying to commit a coup, as they also want to get rid of this jackal who's going to be a thorn in their ass for the coup that they want to take over. But Azetla also doesn't like the empire. But also this coup, I guess this is something. Go ahead.
Of all of them, clearly the most ignorant, the most villainous, I guess, character beside Emperor Riata, which we don't get too much of, but yeah, Commander Varys or
Wesley
Varys.
Yep,
it's clearly like the dumbest one of like. Clearly, this like you want to do a coup, like Azetla is a good candidate. He clearly doesn't like the Emperor either. That seems like a relationship you could exploit, and yet he just can't get over it. Where every other character could see utility from Azetla clearly. But he
even
can't.
Everson at the end.
Everson sees
sees
the very clear, like, yeah, this is like a gift.
I'm supposed to kill you, but no.
Like,
yeah.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me this person is an effective ally? So if we kill him, we're going to lose our great tactical advantage for our army. But even more important, why are you making me get rid of our scapegoat? He's the guy that we pin everything on. He's a willing scapegoat too. You don't get that very often.
It's so satisfying. That was also maybe one of the most emotionally satisfying parts about reading the book, was how logical it was. There was this very small scene, which I'm going to talk about at the end too, because I like the lines and the prose of it. But there's this very small scene where the Emperor Riata is interrogating a jackal who was transporting letters. Remember that small scene? But I even just like the dialogue from the jackal there, saying essentially, well, I've never been happier to be of little assistance. I'll tell you everything I know, and you're going to torture me, and you're going to torture me to the point where I'm just going to spew out anything for you to stop torturing me, and then you're going to obscure the truth because you're not going to know what's true and not, because I'll say anything to get out of the torturing, and that's how this is going to go. But I've never been happier to be of little assistance, because I will tell you everything. I'm not going to pretend to be better than my betters. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly how. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Yes. So yeah. It just made every character in this world, Wesley, being mustache twirling a bit, but everybody's logical and they act as if they are also in this world, which is very important. So maybe I'll make them,
Sure.
we'll talk more of that in characters, but I don't see a hint of, I was never not immersed, which is great. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Sure.
Anything else you wanted to say in more emotional impact of scenes that stuck out to you, emotional payoff, or something that didn't since 375? Thought it was really good. Anything,
Yes.
anything that kept it from going higher? However you want to take it.
So a small thing that
Yeah.
really brought home to me, because I am kind of avoiding the Azetla and the SARS or
Sar Devil.
the SAR Devil.
Or are you talking about SARS like the person? Because it was
the
SARS,
person, the woman.
SARS or
Sarah. No, it's okay. I have multiple names here.
Yep.
The SAR Devil.
Devil, yep.
Shihorian or Tzazal.
Okay.
So I think by the end of the book it was Tzazal. That was the
Okay.
name, if there is a name.
Mhm.
Doesn't seem like there is an actual name, but that's as close as we're gonna get.
Mhm.
Whatever. SAR Devil's easier for me to say personally, and so I'm gonna use
I'm
that.
sticking with that.
Just like how do I use the racial slur jackal or Bolshevik? That's hard to say. Jack, right?
It's so much easier.
It's so much easier. Who knew?
Maybe they're not racist. It just rolls off the tongue. Maybe that's the case. What we learned by the end is it's just linguistics, you know?
Yeah,
That's all it is.
exactly. It's not an actual slur. It's just how it's so much easier to say.
But what were you saying there of
The we've kind of talked around it, but I really love their dynamic. So a lot of the emotional pull is from their scenes. We'll get into that a little later with characters. But a small thing that we probably won't get into too much is between Azetla and the tavern girl.
Molly
Molly.
and Anna, the little girl as well? Yeah,
But
more so Molly. Yeah,
Molly and Azetla's dynamic was a
Yeah.
wonderful little point. Like it's not vitally important to the story, but I loved that dynamic. And I just thought there was so many different levels of friction between characters. And that was an interesting one of just her internal dialogue, wondering, like, respecting the Black Wren and really loving how much they've made her life important and how they've protected her, all these different things, and tolerating Azetla. And now going, like, and to some degree, she respects Azetla, but she realized she only respected Azetla when she thought he was just following orders. And now she's like, wait, he's in charge. And that prejudice comes out even further. So interesting to see. And then, of course, between Molly and Azetla's adopted sister, who is also Mashvi, but Molly doesn't hold really any prejudice toward her.
Mm-hmm.
But because she has tried to integrate herself and to shed her Moshevi culture, and where Azetla is steadfast in his religion and culture, and that rankles Molly.
He is a very faithful person. He is very steadfast in his beliefs.
Yeah,
and that I won't get ahead again, but that Molly and Azetla's scenes, there was maybe. You obviously get the beginning scene with them in the inn. You get them when he comes back and they have to imprison the Sar Devil, and then on the road, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, in my head, there's three main points with Molly, and by the end, she has this internal conflict of, wait, I'm both blaming Azetla at the same time of he's my protector in this way too. Has these conflicting interests of what she should think about a jackal versus what actually is, which gets us into the themes of the book. What did you give thought-provoking this out of 5 stars?
I gave it a 4.25. Really great.
Really great, yeah. I gave it a 4-star. Great.
I could very easily see this story going, like, because of the nature of the book being a part 1, a setup. I don't know exactly where it's going.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm reserving the judgment. It very easily could be a 5.
That's
by the end of the series.
I'm also feeling the same.
Very easily. So it's more of a really great start. Really great. I want to see where it goes. But as of now, really great.
Mine's the same because everything's done. It's awesome. Awesome themes done, handled really well. The nuance we were talking about earlier. And TBD on, I think it's going, the second book is out. It's called Haunt for the Jackals, which we'll read it.
We're reading it,
Book 3's not yet. So I'm curious when that will be. So we'll see.
I would really like to read that sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I may, if I I wonder if I can get to that this month. Hope I can.
Yes.
We'll see.
But themes. So the major theme here being the oppressor versus the oppressed.
Yep.
Did you have other themes that stuck out to you, or do you want to talk that one?
I mean, that's the bigger one, but a lot of, it goes even, honestly, that will cover most. Let's talk that one, and it spirals into little sub-corners of just how that dynamic plays out, not just across different peoples, but internally as well.
So you were saying earlier, without spoiling Blood over Brighthaven, without doing that, you mentioned that you liked how this handles that theme over that book.
Yes.
Maybe you could even just say over general
books
that come out when it comes to the oppressed versus the oppressor.
It really all of this does come down to what J.L. Odom actually does here with setting up the history, setting up the world in a proper, more understandable, reasonable way. A lot of other books like Blood over Brighthaven, I can't. Is that spoilers if I'm talking about the nature of that one?
Just the themes in general?
Yeah.
Keep it if
I'll try and keep it real vague, but just the setup of it is very much, hey, this one group is the oppressed and this other group is the oppressors. Is there any history between them? Nope, it's just the oppressors have always oppressed them because they're evil and they're big bad, and there's no real reason beside they're evil. And that's it. There's no justified or understandable or not even like a right reason, but a reason. Like why? Why did this happen? There's normally something.
Mm-hmm.
Something started this. Why? This book goes into that. Like whether the combination of truth and like real history and propaganda, but clearly a war between, the Empire, the Moshevi people. The Moshevis actually used to be the dominant ones in power, and we don't get too much, but have done some terrible stuff to people as well. And so that generational hatred has built upon. And now that the Empire is relatively new, like not too old, like a couple generations in power at this point, is the generational hatred is still strong. That they like, hey, because their belief is, hey, we overthrew our Moshevi oppressors, the tyrants, and we've torn them down. And all of that piles together. Like, that makes them understandable. Like, it makes it a more believable culture. That is essential.
Yep.
And then beyond that, it's how Azetla and all the Moshevis act as well toward each other and toward, I'm trying to remember the name of the
Makarish.
The Makarish.
I think that's the.
I think there's a couple different groups.
Makarish, yes. Yep, Makarish.
Okay,
that's it. Or Morrowians. I don't want to mix up the two.
I think they're both part of the Empire, but there's not.
Isn't the Morrowians? I believe are the current in power. I believe that's the case.
I think you're
because
right.
There was a lot of M's. There was the Makarish, Morrowan, and Moshebi, and the Moshebi were definitely the Jackals, but I believe it is the Makarish. So Sarez was a Makarish, for example.
I believe it's Morrowans.
Yes, it's
Morrowans are the top of this hierarchy.
Makarish are not the Moshebis, not the Jackals, but they are above the Jackals at the very least.
Yes.
Yes. So
and then below all of them is the SARS, basically. The SAR Devil and all of her people that we don't get to know too much more about.
Yes. So yeah, the great part about this was, everything you said with the nuance of it's not just, oh, look, bad and bad for no reason and good because it's so simple to look at a dynamic and think because one group or a person has something, so whether it be wealth, power, ability, whatever it is in society or in this book and in any world you're creating, if you automatically attribute that with evil and just bad because oppressed group bad because they're in power, of course they have to be bad, is such a simple and boring and also I think incorrect way of viewing things, that life is way more complex than just in power bad, not in power good. And if you view the view of a world is more complex where, hey, the in power here, clearly they do awful things. Clearly they're killing and hanging or just slitting their throats in
Yeah.
front of the town square and have this deep generational hatred. What makes it layered is you understand, I see it's something about there's hints at the faith, for example, of Azetla.
Very
and
much.
There's hints at Go ahead, Dan.
I think it is important to note that the Moshevis have some cultural and religious items that I would say is related to Judaism. I would take a guess. I'd take a wild
monotheism and that.
Yeah, I would take a wild stab at like the monotheism, some of the cultures around, like some of the cultural or the religious rites around eating as well, and then the Moshevis, like how much it's the singular people of it. The Moshevis are the chosen people, but a very exclusionary religion. So I would say that's probably true. It's not a 1-to-1, of course, but I think it's mostly related.
They're
inspired.
Hints, you get hints at also I think it's Middle Eastern inspired in general too, just based on the setting and everything and author history. But you could be right. I think the hints that you get of Azetla's faith and of the history between the cultures is there's more to the deep-seated hatred, and you are able to see. There's also important. It's important to see that you have a character such as James, the Korah James, who is a part of this oppressed group, but he comes across as not a competent guy, but he comes across as not a villain. It's not that you have every character. So obviously Wesley's a villain. The Emperor looks like a villain, but James is essentially even in there to show he's the brother of the Emperor. He doesn't want to be in this whole plot. He kind of just stumbled his way in through Wesley's coercion. But I don't read James and automatically go, oh, villain. And I think he was an important character to add into this because Blood of Brighthaven or other books like that every single person is just flat and evil because they're a part of this group, makes it less believable, less interesting, makes the characters less interesting, and doesn't get more at it doesn't explore a theme or the truth of the matter of like when you're diving into what important thing can you get out of this book? What can you squeeze out of this lemon? I'm now curious to see in the future books of how will this develop? How will the dynamics between this oppressed and oppressor group be resolved? Because I now trust the author in a way to go, okay, you've created a believable world, believable characters, and thematically have set up something that has this nuance to it. So now I'm interested in what she has to say about the subject. Even if it does go to that simplicity that we're talking about, it's presented in a way where I'm going, okay, interesting.
Yeah, Azetla is set up, and by the end is, I don't think it's supposed to be really a twist, but it is revealed that Azetla is the goat herder, the Moshevi rebel. He's working even not just within the Black Wren, but setting up a coup or setting up a rebellion against the Emperor Riata. And so we know he's working, he has his own plans for a rebellion that he's doing it. So it's going to be interesting to see how he treats the people that have been mistreating him as well. But just all the little dynamics that he has with Joseph Assars is so vitally important to how that will play out in the long run.
Yes.
But this one is a really interesting book on that generational hatred, cultural identity, and how it's not just a simple turn off, but it's far more complex, even with characters like Joseph who have like, Azetla is my friend, and yet he still sees Moshevis as lesser than. So how does he square that hole, and how does he compartmentalize in his own brain that, yes, Moshevis and Jackals are traitorous, slimy, conniving, liar, all these negative things that they are lesser than. But also Azetla is a very competent leader and also my friend that I care about. How does he square those two holes? And my personal thought is like he hasn't thought about that deeply versus Sarah's. he actually has thought about it, which is more interesting. Like the dynamic of Joseph being kind of the out front, like, oh yeah, I'm the best friend. He's more joking. He's far more friendly to Azetla in person.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some more stuff in the background. Versaris is always kind of grim on the outside, a little bit more hard, but clearly has gone through a lot of internal struggle and strife to think about this and has overcome his hatred, which is...
He had that eureka moment in battle where he's got his life saved. And he went, well, that doesn't connect with my worldview at all.
Yeah.
You can't just be a good person.
But what a fascinating, the moment where he says, and when I had my knife at your throat, I lost my hatred. The hatred melted away like mist. And I wanted to hate you so much. And I couldn't get my hate back. I couldn't find it again. And I wanted it so badly. That...
Powerful, yeah.
Powerful. It said better in the actual line if I quote it. But then the follow-up of Azetla saying, like, nodding along like he agrees and then saying, you know, my hatred may have been quiet for these years, but I have never once lost it.
Ooh.
Now, interesting dynamic between them. Now this is like wonderful. Like that's a juicy little hidden line deep down in his heart that is...
Azetla may not show it. He just has contained emotions.
Yes.
It's not that he's emotionless. That's the interesting part about the theme as well, because Azetla is showing that the position of power he has in this empire where he is a debt conscript, he's utilizing patience, prudence, and emotional maturity, or just more emotionally not being outlandish and not having these bursts, being in control of his emotions. All of these features which puts him in a position to be able to have more vengeance than anybody else does. So wherever direction he goes after this, the kids on the street that he meets in the beginning of the book who have weapons and are going, F this, F that, whatever, and are out in the streets showing how much they hate the regime, Azetla looks at this and he probably feels a deeper hatred in that way. But he expresses to them that they should contain that for their own sakes, because what good is... they're just going to kill you. What use is it? You're not doing anything virtuous or brave. What bravery is there in dying on sight and doing nothing and letting your loved ones lose you for nothing? Maybe it's wait for the time to strike, or it's build up what he's doing, this reputation, and integrating himself to make him so useful that they can't just get rid of him, because he is so useful to this army and this battalion that when it comes to time to actually kill him and have it written by Decorah and Wesley to kill him, he's too valuable to be killed.
Yeah.
So,
but that dynamic even further is what I found really interesting is between the different Moshevi people, that generally, for at least in this book, this kind of, if I'm get to paint with a broad brush, there's the Moshevis who are rebellious, angry, and want to buck at the, collar around their throats, and they're angry, fighting. They want to rebel. And in many ways, like, it's just not as very helpful. They're just going to die, and they're out loud about it. And then you have the other Moshevis that are trying to integrate themselves and trying to placate and trying to appear harmless, they're trying to just hide and succumb to the will of the Morrowians and all these people. And Azetla, to many others, he looks like that group, that he's just trying to throw away his people and just trying to appease. He's trying to appease, and he's not. He's playing. He plays it. He looks like he's appeasing, but he's not. He's quietly working his way through and showing in certain moments strength of resistance. But even Azetla has those moments where he is looking down on his fellow Moshevis that are clearly just trying to appease him, and he has this moment going like, they think that that appeasing these people is going to save them, and it won't. All it takes is the wrong afternoon, and they'll they'll end up dead just like me. And so like appeasement is not going to work, and he looks down on those people that also do that. So he's playing the middle, and which is interesting. I loved that dynamic. And then also the same vice versa of the appeasement, the Mashvis that are appeasing, and they look at Zetla as just a rabble rouser, and like, you're just going to make us all look bad. You're going to draw their ire. You're going to draw their attention. Why can't you just, lay low? Why do you have to stand out? So good.
Why isn't
so much conflict?
Why isn't it higher for you? Is it because it's this part one and you want to see where it leads?
Yes, it's set up.
Yeah.
It ultimately, it's a great setup. But what is it going to say about all this? How is it going to? What is the book trying to say about this struggle? How do you get past it? Is it able to? Are you even able to get past it? Is the only answer time, or is there something more? I'm
invested to see what the answer is.
I'm invested, but I'm just.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Same thoughts. Anything else for thought-provokingness that struck you?
Of course, I think want to lay in is for the beginning of the book we get between the Mashvi and the Empire, and then you see this power dynamic, the oppressed versus oppressor, and then we get thrown the third wrinkle of the Tsar Devil, and like now someone below even the jackals, So, and how does that dynamic play out? And everything with
and the Tsar Devil has to do exactly what Azetla's doing to survive. Has to heal somebody and says outright, "Hey, I know you like the truth, Azetla. I'm healing the person, so I'm of use. I want to not be in chains."
Yeah,
so, sure.
Plays everything completely straight and tries to figure out best way to manipulate people, and realizes that the only way to manipulate Azetla is through the truth. And he's like, damn it, because you're right.
I do appreciate that. And why'd you have to be so honest about it?
And it's like, I know you're manipulating me because you told me, and I get it. But also, what else am I supposed to do?
Do you want to go to characters on that?
Yeah, let's go into
What'd you give out of 5?
Characters, I gave a 3.75. Really good.
I gave 4-star. Great.
I could be convinced to go up on this one. This is a category I was thinking about, and the more we were talking about thought-provokingness of like even the smaller characters that made an impact for me. I think the thing that dropped it a little bit more was, I think James is good, but maybe Wesley Varys maybe drew him back a little bit. Maybe there's some other side characters that maybe want more of, but honestly, the more I think about it, a lot of these side characters really did pull their weight. Of even characters like Joseph and Sarez.
You're like, I could be convinced. Let me convince myself.
I'm already convincing myself.
Like, well, I did like this.
Yeah, fuck, yeah. I don't even, I convinced myself. It's going up.
What the hell? You didn't even give, let me put a word in so it seems like I contributed, whatever.
No,
okay,
so. It goes up to 4. Can you raise it higher than a 4?
Well, I do have it at a 4-star too. Great, because I think we're talking Azetla a lot there, and let's conclude him because we built up a lot of Azetla of why he's an interesting character. Of he comes across as stoic in a way. He comes across as controlled and measured, yet there's these hints and appearances that you start to see there's more to him than that. The situation he's in and the conflict he is in as well. He seems as though he's the most mature and responsible person, and he's looked up to and respected by the battalion. So Azetla is clearly that guy. And it's almost like you're on the edge when you're watching and reading Azetla, because you're going, when is he going to make a move? Or if and when is the keg going to start? Or are you going to light the keg? That is what you're kind of anticipating.
He's always walking the fence line of he clearly doesn't want to, he will never disrespect his own religion. He holds true to it, but he also is not going to make a big, he's not going to force it on others. He plays the line. And I love how it's not just said, it's shown how much that he plays by the rules, but also keeps pushing it. All the little things of maybe slight disrespect, but more of a demanding the respect of his station and the things that he's done in very subtle, slow ways. And how in some ways, like hey, that's a quicker way to get people's attention and for him to be, knocked down for, taking a step out of place, out of his station. But it's also necessary if he wants the respect of, like, he has aspiration and goals. He wants, like, he has earned the command of the Black Wren. If he doesn't demand it, if he doesn't demand respect from the others, he'll never get it. So he has to take it. That's good. Ooh, fun.
Azetla's character is who you want to be.
Yeah, sure.
Just put a little ounce of him and Carl.
Oh, sure.
That's all from Dungeon Crawl Carl. But Azetla has that. He's very tactful, mindful, again, prudent, all those words you can attribute to him. Why is he an interesting character still? Because does it appear that he has extreme flaws? Would you say he's a flawed character?
We don't know too much about him. That's the thing, is we're getting a lot into his head, but he keeps a lot of things close to the chest.
Yeah.
And so why I'm maybe not like, oh, I'm in love with Azetla as a character and I'm just so emotionally attached to him, it's because I don't know enough. There's clearly some deep hatred there. Clearly some, like, that, for the most part, as far as we could tell from the outside, is pretty justified. Justified hatred of, like, it's not a hatred toward a group of people unnecessarily. It's hatred toward people that have wronged him and that continuously wrong him and kill his people and all this. And it's like, yeah, no, he's right to be angry. He's right to be rageful. But it comes out a little bit more of, especially between him and Sarez, his friend.
Yeah.
Of Sarez taking years to get through it, but has kind of conquered his hatred toward the Moshavi people and Azetla in particular, or especially more Azetla than the Moshavis, but he has overcome that hatred. And Azetla has not. Azetla treats him like a friend and is able to keep it locked down and can treat Sarez with respect and like a friendly attitude. But clearly that hatred has not gone away. And we have not seen Azetla in a position of power where he could let that hatred out. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if we don't get to see a little bit of that element in the next book, I would be very surprised. Because now he's been given a position of power. Tentative though it is.
That's why
that's the question. Yeah. Is now that he can let his hatred out, now that he does have power, how does he use it? Is he going to be completely tactful, or is he going to let the hate out and maybe sometimes justified, maybe sometimes not so justified? How is that going to work?
Yeah.
That I'm interested in.
That's what I'm very invested in too, because when we say setup book, when we've been saying, oh, look at this prologue is a way of putting it too, it's because it ends in a point where he's now in a spot where he can do a lot.
Yes.
Of, okay, it's set up for Azetla. This next book, you expect a lot more. Not that he wasn't an active character, but he can be a complete active character. Unlike James, Cora James, what's his last name? I didn't get his last name down. I
didn't either.
So when James is first introduced, I like how quickly these characters are introduced and you can get their personalities and they can feel more like irreplaceable characters, because James is having this internal thought about the coup that Wesley wants him to be a part of and how he kind of just stumbled into this. Mm-hmm. And it's explained in his head. He says, why didn't James say no to this or avoid being involved in this plot? Well, one, he feared taking any actions whatsoever. He was already getting in too deep and felt as it kind of went further and further and further, if he was to then out the coups, the coup peoples, there's got to be a name for wait, isn't coup plural anyways? So wouldn't it just be coup, the coup people? So
there is a word.
There's got to be.
The saboteurs. I don't know. The resist.
The by the buys.
The by the buys.
The by the buys people, the people in the coup, James, if he then goes and tells the Empire about it, well, why did he say this months into the plan? So the further he got, the less able he was to speak out about it. And the other reason he gave was, well, there's the Empire who doesn't value him, and these people in the coup seem to at least value him enough to want to put him in a position like this. So why would he betray the people that value him over the people that don't value him? So he goes, well, I guess I stumbled into this. And James's whole character is more so how he doesn't take action and he isn't assertive. And you get a little glimpse of this where Wesley's obviously using him as the figurehead and pawn, but he has the blood, and Wesley uses him. And you see James have a moment of going off of what Wesley wanted him to do there. So there's a little bit of a glimpse. So I'm curious how Wesley and James's interactions will continue throughout the rest of the book, the rest of the book series. Because in this one, we get those hints. We see James, we see Wesley. They are set up so you understand how each of them works. Wesley is the one who's supposed to be the most cunning, yet it seems that it seems that there's others that are more cunning than him. However, he is the conniver. Conniver is maybe the better way of putting it.
Well, you do get... I appreciate with James that he is not the complete simpleton. It's not like he never realizes that Wesley Varys is actually manipulating him. He gets it. James does understand. Like, it's just when he realized it, he was like, it's way too late for me to like, yeah, I understand he's manipulating me, but what else am I supposed to do? And so he's not a complete idiot, but that goes beyond. His problem is, to some degree, it's more ignorance rather than just complete stupidity. And so even his hatred of Moshevis comes out of ignorance. There's not a direct reason why. Like, he just doesn't like the Moshevis because that's what he's supposed to not like. And you see, like, the moment
he was born in Boston, he can't be a Yankees fan.
Exactly. But the moment he's pushed ever so slightly on that issue, like, hey, here's a jackal that's incredibly useful to you and also treats you with some degree of respect that a lot of other people don't, and protecting you. Like,
how smart is Zella for going to James, by the way?
The right pick. But the moment James's worldview of Moshevi people is pressed ever so slightly, he bends, because it's not based out of a real direct reason. There isn't much of a reason for him to hate them. Compare that to the Emperor. Emperor Riata, we don't know too much, but we know there's like a direct reason for his hatred. He hates the Moshevi people more than basically anyone else. And there's a reason. We don't know, but something happened. Something happened between him and the whole coup against the Moshevi's king, and how he didn't actually take out the king, but his father did, whatever have you. But there's clearly a reason for his deep, deep hatred, and James just doesn't have it, and so he's able to be pressured on it. I liked that a lot.
Yes.
That was really interesting. So that same play won't work with Emperor Riata.
No, clearly not. No. And that is where the three people in charge gets Wesley, James, and then the colonel at the end, Colonel Everstorm or Everson. Everson, I believe. But
yes,
Colonel Everson at the end. And it's interesting because he's in a position where you have all the generals, and he's a colonel, and he's sent to the desert. He gets the worst post, essentially, and he doesn't have the army to back up. He doesn't have a good army. He needs Jackal's training, actually. He needs Azella's training to actually help out the army in the long run. But he's in a position that he comes into the scene, is supposed to kill Azella, and seems to have... He's also part of the coup, important to mention. He's a part of the coup, and he knows the position that Wesley and James are in, where he says, they don't have all the fighting power. They don't have the necessary troops. They don't have...
Well, how much that James and Wesley, and especially Wesley, thinks that this can be a almost bloodless coup.
Yeah, right.
That, oh, hey, we have a lot of the senators on our side. We have a lot of the political will behind us. And even Everson's like, it's kind of impressive. Like, you do actually have you have cobbled together a great degree of support within the Senate, but that is not enough. You need an army. This is not going to be bloodless. This is going to be a fight. And you have no army, nothing. And you cannot
And I'm a colonel.
You don't have the luxury to sacrifice this jackal, because if you do, maybe you still kind of hold the Black Wren, barely, but they won't respect you, and you need it's them against everyone else. You need them at their best.
Yeah,
and their best demands a Zetla. You can't afford to sacrifice him.
And hey, if Zetla screws up, scapegoat.
Yeah, and it's like, and even better, guess what? This whole thing goes tits up. We go, Zetla, hey, look, the jackal tried to attempt a coup. Get him, Emperor, not us.
I think the Tsar Devil says to Zetla at the end, you do realize that all of your victories will be theirs and defeats will be yours. They'll take all the credit for the wins and you have all the losses.
And just a great moment for Zetla of kind of collapsing, a shaking of just everything kind of falling into place. Mm-hmm. And him not shaking out of fear or anything, but just excitement of like, I'm fine, like itching. He's chomping at the bit of like, yes, I have an opportunity. Like this, all this whole thing, it only excites him.
I don't want to set up expectations, but I feel like we're going to like book 2 more.
I would hope so.
I think so.
Because that's such that's a great moment of everything. Zetla realizes he just barely escaped the executioners.
He almost died. Yeah.
Almost died. Yep. Everything piling on. He barely holds the Black Wren together. Part of his command almost tried to kill him. These people trying to kill him. Oh, there's this coup going on, and the Tsar Devil's there, and he knows he's being manipulated. He's like, oh, God, all these things on all sides. And then realizing, hey, you've been put into a place where none of your achievements are going to go to you, and all the failures of everyone is on your head. Like, you're in the worst position. And he's like, but at least I'm on the fucking board now. I actually get to play the game. And that makes him excited. That's great character moment. I'm like, yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, he's not shaking because he almost died, of course, and he's not shaking because of all the outside noise. This, again, if you had to put this story from start to finish of what was the arc of the story, it's Zetla is in charge in name only, and then actually is in charge of something.
Yeah.
That is the arc of the story. Well, before we jump right to plot.
We still have some characters to go through.
There's some, such as the Tsar Devil.
The Tsar Devil or Saul or...
Which one did you want to take away? Who are you talking about next?
I'm just trying to... Which character name to use? Tsar Devil or...
Tsar Devil.
Tsar Devil. Mm-hmm. It's easier, so we're going to use the slur.
I've referred to Zetla as Jackal just because that's easier. I'm like, yeah, the Jackal main protagonist. So the Tsar Devil.
Yeah.
Tsar Devil, we get introduced as just starting to pick people off one by one. At first, I didn't know what direction the book was going to go of. Is this a
fantasy level of like
monster? Is this a is this a Leviathan? What is this? Is it sci-fi? What am I reading? And then you figure out it's this Tsar Devil, and it took me a bit, and took me a moment to figure out before. Oh, it's a person.
Yeah, because it is played well. Of like, I don't know, is it a possessed creature? Because it seems to be...
I kept questioning.
Yeah.
I was going, is this... Okay, but no, it's just someone they look down on. Oh, no, this is the Tsar Devil. These are the peoples here. I'm going, oh. They are so entrenched in their beliefs of this culture that they literally look at this person like a devil.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, she does bring receipts for that little bit of a claim. She starts wiping those people out.
Yeah,
pretty easily.
Yeah. Impressively, yes.
Impressively so.
And the Tsar Devil plays their role really well. We mentioned how she bounces off of a Zetla and other personalities to kind of figure out what makes that person the more manipulated. How do you properly manipulate that person? How do you pinpoint what makes them itch, what makes them work, and figured out rather quickly that what makes a Zetla work, what makes a Zetla itch is just be honest. That's how she could manipulate him. And how can she manipulate others? It's just interesting to see. Also, the Tsar Devil knows that she has information the others need in this desert. So she also holds information and uses it at the right times. And Zetla even says to himself that he knows that most of the things the Tsar Devil is saying, they're completely honest. But what he's worried about is about the one time it won't be the truth. Because all will take is one moment to lie. So he's putting himself into this trap, and what can he do about it? Because the Sar Devil manipulates and is cunning in that way too. So I thought I was both very interested to figure out, oh wait, this is actually a person. So I went from this could potentially be horror, more creature, fantasy, whatever this is, to, oh, this, again, it expanded the world more of this. That's how much the characters view the people in the southwest desert area. So what did you think about the Sar Devil character?
What I think I loved most is the mystery of her. So every time we get her POV and what she's thinking, it's all about, a lot of it is about manipulating others, of like, what is their pressure point? What do they care most about? What influences them? And I, as the reader, am asked the question, what does she want? What does she want in all this? Because we get hints of like some wilder things of like, does she just crave violence? That doesn't seem to be true.
They had a bet, though. They had a bet over how many she would kill at one point.
Yeah. But the fact that she seems to have turned herself in a way, like she didn't need to get caught.
Yeah.
But she did. Why? She's almost begging to be caught. And she seems to be, because then other characters saying like she is trying to just stoke the god's wrath, and there's more of a attention from her of like trying to get the god's attention. And so you're kind of left wondering, is she just trying to stoke the flames to cause a war? Is that, it seems like she's done something like that before, of to get the god's attention she has to bring on great tragedy and some great holy war, and that will bring their attention. So there's some interesting dynamic there of how she values gods, the gods' opinions, and mortals are nothing. And so she doesn't have a name, or at least doesn't acknowledge one. Of every human is just a pawn to the gods anyway, and so she treats them as such. But I'm just constantly wondering, while she correctly figured out all of these other characters and the pressure points to put on them, Azetla's also trying to figure out what she wants. And always, him and us, the reader, don't know. Like, don't really know. What does she actually want? Because clearly, she maybe seems like she kind of wants to help out Azetla. There seems to be some commonality of her at war with Emperor Riyadh and wants some type of conflict there. We just don't know why. But I did like the one moment where Azetla did figure out something that would rankle her. Of all the stuff that he's threatened, of everyone's threatened violence, physical, all this stuff, even killing her, she doesn't seem to care. The moment he says like, yeah, I could cut out your tongue, that actually help. You couldn't manipulate anyone anymore after that. And that's the moment like it does get under her, like a little bit of fear in her. It's like, you don't even care about your life as much as you care about your tongue. Interesting. And that's
you little worm tongue.
You little worm, like, ooh, there's a little something there. You have grander aims beyond your own hide. That was the interesting moment. There. It was fun.
That was fun. Yes. It's a lot of the back and forth dynamics between the characters makes them more fun and real. That is cool to see. And correct me if I'm wrong, she kills Captain Hodge. Yeah. And Captain Hodge, we get a bit of, he's your fridged captain. Oh, no. Yeah. And the cool moment with Captain Hodge is we see from Azetla's perspective how he knows Captain Hodge can't outright say that Azetla is second in command. He knows the situation. He knows that. But when Captain Hodge is confronted and asked, why is this jackal here? And get rid of him, Hodge stands up for Azetla for a moment, and Azetla goes, wow, I can't believe Captain Hodge actually is stating what should not be spoken in front of people. We get that, and Hodge dies.
Very much a confirmation of Azetla kind of always wondering, does Captain Hodge put me in this position because I'm useful, or does he actually care?
And that showed a moment of care.
Yeah.
Not just a moment, he does care.
He does care, clearly. And it certainly started off as, hey, Azetla is useful, and so use him that way. but it has definitely grown over the point where he does care for Zetla as one of his own.
Yep.
And so that was always a question Zetla had, and it was answered in that moment, which for Zetla makes his death even sadder, and for everyone. But then we turn around, and the person who literally killed him gets to like. It's always in the back of your head of the more freedom the Sar Devil gets. You go, she's the one that killed Captain Hodge.
Yeah.
Like, you're
and a dozen
like,
others or so.
A dozen others, and like, she's just walking free. And then is that like just how much further and further removed that fact becomes is interesting.
It is,
to say the least.
Yes. Other characters. Anybody? We talked Molly a bit earlier.
A little bit
Molly and Anna. I like what Anna adds to the world building stuff, which we can get to later too, which is neat. But anything else on characters you wanted to mention?
There's a character I want more of that I'm interested in the dynamic. Oh, sorry.
Mom's calling.
Yes, Mom's calling. I will call her later.
Should have answered it. Let everybody on the podcast know exactly what Mom's saying.
Yeah. Hold on a minute. I've just muted my phone here so this doesn't happen again.
But you were saying that.
What's her name? The adoptive sister of Zetla.
The adopted sister?
Yes.
The adopted sister.
She's very much in the beginning
of Zetla is.
I don't remember her name.
Well, you're not talking about Molly's little sister.
Not Molly's little sister.
Molly's little sister's Anna.
I know,
right?
I know.
And then you have,
because it's Molly's friend, the one she's closest with.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm trying to remember her name, but which kind of shows how much she's in the. She's not in the book a lot.
No.
But
is she in the book at the end? No.
She's there. She's alongside with everyone.
Okay.
She is with everyone. She's with the group. However, just her dynamic of being a Moshevi that wants to appease and tries to adopt the culture, and clearly a very she's a Moshevi by culture only and not religious, so she doesn't follow any of the religious customs unless basically Zetla's there in front of her, and she kind of feels forced to. How much she wants to be a part of the Morrowan society, I want more of that. I want more of that of her dynamic with Zetla, because how much that they may care for each other in their history growing up, but I can imagine the resentment that both kind of have of how much Zetla puts on her of like, you are standing out and you're making our lives harder than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. And Zetla thinking to himself of, look how much I have fought every day for us and our people, and look how you throw it away. Like, the least you can do is to honor our people's culture in private. That's the bare minimum you could do, and that's the one thing you don't. And how much he must resent that from her. And so I want more of that dynamic.
Yeah, there's a lot more I'm looking forward to with character. You've already talked about how the Emperor, he has motivations. We don't know exactly why there's all that hate there. But Wesley, the Emperor, a lot of the villain characters, I'm looking forward to finding out deeper layers to their motivations, as far as we understand world motivations and culture motivations, but more so is Wesley's character just that he wants power? That seems like that is the case for the most part.
So far, that does seem like he's been slighted and he's been misaligned, he's been pushed off to the side. He wants power. He feels disrespected.
Yeah.
And I mean, that really is his motivation, is of how he values respect, and he feels like he's been disrespected by the Emperor and all these other people. And why does he hate Zetla so much? He feels that just Zetla's presence and his position is disrespectful. And that's what hates him so much. He values that more so than James. James doesn't care about his own ego. He has no ego to be humble about. And so that's why he's able to Zetla's actually really helpful. He has a plan. He has experience. It seems like we kind of need him. Why should I kill him? That seems dumb. Which is the smarter move. So maybe James will evolve past Varys, because Varys has a massive ego and James doesn't.
It seems like Wesley will be villain 1 and then the Emperor is villain 2 to tackle. I don't know what the future books, but maybe book 2's handling him, book 3 is Emperor, maybe something like
maybe
that.
So.
Because Wesley's not your main big bad.
No.
He's not. He's your obstacle.
He is.
Maybe I could get subverted and maybe he is the main, maybe the coup successful and he does become the main big bad and Emperor. So who knows? Who knows where this will go? Yeah. However, I had not read book 2, so that is not spoilers. I'm just saying, I'm spewing stuff. But do you want to go into plot?
Let's go into it.
4 stars for me. Great plot.
3.25.
Oh, above average plot.
Above average plot.
Interesting.
Again, I could probably be convinced, but this is where I put most of my point toward this being
the ending, the setup.
The ending, this being a setup book. I felt it. My interest in the plot itself is not only is it a slow burn, but it is a slow finish as well. I'm like going, okay, it didn't burn to a crescendo or a conclusion. It's just, it almost felt like, episode 1 is done. Now on to episode. It wasn't a complete movie, so I just put it. Yeah,
that's where you put most of your the plot. Although you were interested in the plot, you wanted more payoff.
I wanted more payoff.
Got it.
I felt like there was a distinct lack of payoff in this book, and so that's where I'm going to put even though the moment to moment, I like how logical everything it is. I love how the characters make really interesting decisions. There's back and forth, push and pull. I love all that, but by the end of it, but I'm just left with a setup book, and so I'm not giving the plot that high.
Did you like the promise and the progress of the book? The Act 1, Act 2 stuff? Because if we were to talk about this plot again, it's 2 things. Plot A is Azetla, and I guess if you could consider that Azetla's plights, and then plot B is the coup overarching this, or if you want something, whichever you could flip those. I always get that wrong. A plot is A plot's main. B is what's the lurking plot.
Yeah, A plot is Azetla with the Black Wren going to this, going to the south with the Sar Devil.
Yes. Now, what I loved about the plot, at the very least, I agree with you, and I put that more emotional. At the ending, nothing unsatisfying about it, but it is a prologue book. It is a setup. Just like I'd say something such as the first, or the Blade itself. You like the plot. I won't put you in that camp.
Thank you.
However, you can look at,
I disagree with Joe Abercrombie on this one. Joe is wrong about his own book.
Death of the Reader. Listen to the author. Okay.
Yes.
So
it's the one time.
But the first law, without no spoilers, but the Blade itself feels like a setup book. There's books like that book certainly did feel like a setup book as well. Now, this book does feel like a setup book, but the thing that does it for me for the plot is maybe since we talked about the conflicts a lot, I'll go to that second. But one thing I just appreciated that a lot of books get wrong and stupid is plot armor. Plot armor in so many books is just bad. It's so easy to look, why is this character doing this? Oh, because they have protagonist plot armor. The very least, this book with Azetla and his position and all the conflicts that we just talked about, so not to repeat what we just said, so what we just said building off of that is it handles the plot armor of Azetla and of the characters to just a completely believable, this is exactly how political intrigue and military fantasy would work. Yes, there's nothing, everything fits in the puzzle piece perfectly as far as how these characters would survive and interact. So I was so satisfied to read a book that I could trust the author that there is no logical error at all. And I talked about the very small scene earlier about how the prisoner, the person that was transferring the letter, the note, gets caught by, and the Emperor's interrogating them. And I already mentioned how they say, hey, I'm not better than my better. I'm going to tell you everything I know. And then this, it seems that as the author was writing this, they know exactly how every scenario would work and function of, I got not that if I was to write, I was thinking, if I was to write that scene, or how would I do that? Oh yeah, exactly that. So that I appreciated it never felt like plot armor. It always felt that these characters were meant to be where they're meant to be. And also Captain, go ahead.
Also not over explaining it.
Yeah. And not over explaining
feeling
it. Yeah.
like, oh, this fits too much like a perfect puzzle piece of like the author trying to worry about that. Going, oh, no, it has to make sense and make like all these little contrivances to make sure it perfectly makes sense where it feels over-engineered.
No, it
doesn't feel over-engineered.
Yeah. That thing. But the main thing for me is the conflict in this book, the plot conflict. So when we're talking about these different characters, you have the Tsar. Let's just talk about puzzle pieces. Is you have the Tsar Devil with their motivations. You have a Zetla, the Jackals in general. You have the Coup with James and Everson and Wesley, and then you have the Empire itself. So you have layers of hierarchy and conflict, and the interplay is what was interesting to me. I guess I haven't read I'll say this, I could definitely say this. I haven't read a setup book that I enjoyed its plot more than this one, I guess I should say, because it's clearly sets stuff up, but I think if going into this reading, if the goal is political intrigue and the goal is military fantasy, it checks all of that off. For some reason, I'll say this because when we're talking about plot, we're talking promise, progress, payoff, what would you change, of, 5-star being you change a ton, 1-star being, 1-star being you change a ton, 5-star book being, I can't think of much to change. But the aspect of this book that I appreciated with the setup quality to it, how spoiler should I get for other books? No, I won't. But the aspect I appreciated the most as well was my expectations going in somehow didn't lead me to believing I was supposed to get a battle or some type of payoff. I guess the promise of the book, I did not feel the book promised me any more than it delivered was the key thing. So, for example, there's other books where the promise of it and then the conclusion is a setup of, oh, see you next book. And then I'm going, darn, I expected more. I felt I was promised more. So this is, okay, I can say this because it's set in chapter 1. In one of our favorite series, Sun Eater, chapter 1 of Sun Eater talks about the sun getting eaten by Hadrian Marlowe. Chapter 1 of the book.
Page 1.
Literally page 1.
So
page 1 of the stuff.
Oh, sorry, page 1 spoilers.
And then, so the payoff of it being what book 1 was, I was going like, oh, okay. All right, next book. And not to say that. So with that series of you read something and you feel that you're expecting this. So this plot pulled off where my expectations for this. Why I've been repeating this as well. Of Zetla starts the book off in a not position of power and is kind of second in command, but it can't be acknowledged. And then the end of the book, it is acknowledged. He does gain that. And you talked about that moment of, it's almost this weird excitement he has of, oh, I can finally do something. And that to me was the payoff. The payoff was he goes from not to in this sort of power. And if I was expecting a different, I guess if the book started off and my expectations were set in a way to go, oh, I was told that this was going to be more of an action heavy or not just a political thriller, but the coup. I felt that the coup should have happened in this book. I keep wanting to give examples of, okay, bleep this out, Nick, but okay, book like that where at the end of the book there is the actual overtaking because that's certainly promised. You are promised that. And I'll say the genre, you'll get what was bleeped out. So the heist story that fantasy book is, you are promised that conclusion when it comes to the coup. This book, the coup doesn't feel promised. Did you, I guess I keep saying those P words though, when it came to your expectations for the ending, were you expecting more of a payoff, I guess? Or did the book design itself in a way to you were going, no, it should have been something different? Or do you just wish the book was longer and it included whatever book 2 also is? Because I could see that being the case.
I can see this. I think what I would change and why we give it a slightly lower score than yours is I think the ending needed another like 50 to 100 pages. Like maybe not 100 pages, but like another 50 pages of he gets that power and like the consequence of it. I wanted to see if like
in this book
a little bit more of a conclusion of, because we get I do think the promise in the beginning is a Zetla is thrown in the middle. He's he has this respect. He's in this quasi position of power, but he's not there yet. He cleared the setup with him watching the Mashvi people get hanged and knowing this is all I can do. The only thing I can do is look them in the eye and watch. And I can't do anything to act. I think for the ending, I would have liked a little bit more on top. Like just him doing something with that power and maybe some consequences going along with it. So that would be the big thing I would change, because I think ending it where it is, yes, technically there is that significant change of, unacknowledged, not really in a position of power, to something of a position of power.
Yeah.
Even tentative as it is. I think I wanted more from that to be a really good conclusion to the book.
I agree. The conclusion to me also wasn't the standing feature of it. It is a prologue. I would even warn people going in, as we said, it does read like a prologue. So I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. But the juice in it didn't do it enough for you. Of how much credit do you give to the conflicts and to the
there's a lot of character conflicts that were great.
Yeah.
But a lot of the plot detail moments I don't particularly care about as much.
Mm-hmm.
So the trek across the desert, like them going into the south and back out, even the fighting, okay. I'm not that interested in it. Or the dynamics between Azzetla and the other tribespeople of it being contrived. I'm like, that I'm not caring about, as I know it's going to be important later. I get it. But some of those moments were not as, like, the plot itself was not as interesting as the character moments between them.
Mm.
And so it's, mixed bag for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Have anything else about the plot?
Oh, no.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. I think, the main thing is just that I guess a lot of the stuff we talked about with the political intrigue and character conflicts of how I think I put a lot of the credit to the plot of how the conflicts in the hierarchy was developed. So all of that stuff go ahead.
I put that in world building.
Ah, okay. Makes sense. So do you want to go into world building?
Yeah.
What did you give it out of 5 stars?
4.25. Really great.
Me too. 4.25 stars. Really great.
Damn.
Yeah.
What a great start to this world. It like all the things we've been saying, especially in thought provokingness.
Yeah.
The world feels real. The world has layers, depth to it. There is a oppressor-oppressed narrative in here, but it actually is handled with a sense of realism, grace, and also it's not just one oppressor and one oppressed. There are layers to it. Even Azzetla as a Moshavi, as a jackal, is the oppressor to the Southerners. That we don't even really get a full name for them. They're just the people in the South that have multiple groups we don't even know. Mm-hmm. The Sar Devil and all the devil folk. So we even have that hierarchy and how they're treated. So
you really did put that all in worlds. Okay. Yeah. That's what you're talking about. I was like, oh, that's interesting plot stuff. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just the development of the world to me.
That makes sense. There was a lot of cool small details too that stuck out to me. This is so silly, but they had a cool in-world thing where they tapped the floor twice and raised their hand up. Is it a way to, hey, give me more, or tell more gossip or do something? Just there were these little details too that was cool to see that, that feels different than dapping somebody up in the real world or doing just a high five or a handshake. That you have your symbolic or your cultural. It just feels that the author thought about a lot of cultural. You had a shocking moment. What's your face say there?
It's not
that important.
I'll carry it later. It's not important. It would interrupt you, and I didn't want to do that. Sorry.
No, that's it. End of that is just saying that the culture, it seemed that things that would almost feel superfluous or not as important were also brought up to make it feel more real, which was great to see. And the Middle Eastern setting and the deserts, some of the descriptions of that too were awesome. And everything felt so alive because the Meroans in power and the Mashabis being oppressed. The way I give some credit to how the characters in world viewed each other and how everybody felt as if they were in that time. As this is not a 21st century, we are writing a story about characters that have 21st century values and attitudes.
Where
everything was certainly
your good guys have to have the exact same moral values as someone alive today, and it's like, all right, it's not the fantasy. Like, be in the world. What would that character in that world believe?
And that's the entire book felt like that entirely. But what was your moment of eureka? You had something.
I gave it a 4.25, and I'm just like right out of the gate, a thing that is either bothering me or just a thing we'll find out later, or I'm an ignoramus and I didn't even catch it.
Ignoramus.
By blood, by salt.
Yep.
What's the point of salt? Salt seems to be religiously important. What was that? They curse with it a lot.
By salt?
The Mosheviks swear on salt. Do you understand why?
I think so.
Why?
I completely look like a buffoon.
Why is that a thing?
Okay. Here's my two thoughts. One thought, I don't even know if this was said in the book, but I think in my head, salt preserves food.
Oh. Okay.
That was this is not said in the book. That's me going, that's probably
the two things that I found is like the Meroans, they worship or they sacrifice, they value blood. It's in the blood. They cut the throats of the Mosheviks and like the rivers of blood. And then the Mosheviks swear on salt, and salt is the thing that they religiously value. And so the whole title, By Blood, By Salt, is like
do tears have salt? Salty taste to them? Maybe it's a little bit of that.
I haven't tasted enough tears to know, really.
Tears do taste salty.
Yeah.
So is it that? Is it to... it's my cry for help. This morning there was really... But is it to juxtapose that of by blood is death and by salt tears? Maybe that's a part of it too.
Maybe. By the end I kind of took it as
sweat. By
blood is like it's an oath. Like by God I will do this. But so it's both sides oath. So but the Meroans by blood, the Mosheviks by salt. And so it's just like the oath of both, like both sides are religiously bound to this conflict.
It is their ways of saying oaths, but you're asking more so why do they say by salt?
Yes.
Rather than by blood. It wasn't said in the book, because if it did, I missed it.
I missed it. I didn't think it was told of why salt is a religious
did you want that answer?
Yes.
You did?
It was on the title of the book.
You want by salt. What does that mean?
I understood by blood. I'm like, okay, I'm understanding they worship blood. Okay, fine.
I think we're missing
I get
something.
it. The blood feeds the gods desire. Like, okay, I'm understanding the religious context of it. What is the religious context of salt? I need to know. This is important to me, and I don't know it. Actually, this is a great time for having YouTube videos. Okay. Please, JL Odom, comment down below. What's the religious significance of salt?
More so, what did we miss? Because
what did we miss?
It's certainly in there.
I would like to know. Why is salt important to the Mosheviks?
And if it's for food preservation, I'm taking brownie points on that, because I just spewed that one out as well. See, could it be by that? Could it tear? What else would by salt mean?
I'm gonna take a stab in the dark.
Yeah.
And see if I'm pretty sure I'm right of that the Mosheviks are inspired in large part by Judaism. My guess is salt will play a similar role to the lamp that's one of the Jewish religious stories is the lamp that lasted 7 days? I don't know. I'm not good at religion. But point being is the whole thing with Passover and all this stuff with the lamp that lasts 7 days and allowed them to survive and all this. I imagine there's going to be some Moshevi story of a salt block that lasted them long, like by miracle, longer than it should have. And it is the miracle salt block. And so that's why they value it.
It's certainly not in the book. There's no, I don't think we missed that portion.
We didn't miss it. I think it'll be in book 2.
Man.
I just want to know why salt.
I'm just pissed off because I didn't even think to ask that question to myself. Not once. I didn't even. I just accepted it, and I'm fine with that.
From page 1, I was going, why salt?
I didn't ask it once.
The entire time I was asking myself, why salt? That was my number one question.
I'm now asking the question. However, I like my headcanon.
That's fine.
I like the headcanon of the tears because by blood is so violent and then tears are so sad. Because, the oppressor, violence, blood, the oppressed, crying, tears. And
I feel like you're wrong.
I feel like that's right. I feel like that jail Odom. Let me know. I feel like I'm onto something here.
I feel like that's just, the curtains are blue level bullshit.
No, I feel, even if jail Odom didn't mean that, I think interpretively,
no,
it speaks
what
to...
you think matters not. It's what J.L. Odom actually thinks.
It speaks to just
it's her
meaning
thoughts
and emotions. And I'm getting more out of this. So I am very curious what the answer to this is. But okay, the world...
I would like to know, please. Thank you.
But why the world's also awesome is you have... it touches on several things. We get a little bit of the history and the inspiration to a lot of the Mashabis is this legend of Samuel, forgetting the last name. But we come to find out this Samuel figure is we discover through the emperor while interrogating that person I've already brought up several times. But while interrogating that person, we figured out Samuel is this legend and was a charlatan all along. So the person that they looked up to in their stories, this person, the Samuel, like, oh, look, our king to return, our prince, all these stories. Yeah.
I have a theory on that one.
You do?
Actually, personally.
What's your theory?
At least this was the direction I thought it's going.
Table move. Yeah.
There we go. Adjust.
Where do you think that's going with the Samuel story?
Well, so the story that the king laid out was Samuel being the prince of the current Mashavi king who is subservient to the current emperor. And that's basically the Emperor Riata said, yeah, no, we knew Samuel was my father at least knew that Samuel was a threat. And so we negotiate with your king and we killed Samuel. Samuel is a myth and legend that we let live, but maybe we'll announce, but he's gone. The whole thing is a ruse for Samuel is off, in other lands to return again, but he hasn't. We killed him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very possible that it's actually Azetla. That Azetla is Samuel.
Oh, you think so?
There was more of a moment in before, so not only the sheep herder, am I saying that right? Not
the goat herder.
The goat herder. But there was a moment when he was being interrogated a little bit of Azetla, where are you from? And they were trying to get his region, and he panicked. That was the one time Azetla was panicking, gave him an answer and going, it's an odd name. It doesn't really fit your accent. And so the Emerson character was kind of grilling him, going, your name and your accent really don't match. And you don't and the fact that Azetla's name itself means nothing, just like the goat herd. So Azetla is the fake name, and his region is false.
And why is Azetla as a debt? Sir, why does he have to serve the army?
Yes, all these questions, and I'm wondering if his own name Azetla is completely false. What is his true name? What is he hiding from?
What's the deeper truth to this? Because is it just what he says? Why out? Are there more answers to questions that haven't been posed yet, essentially?
Yeah. And so my thought is, this Azetla is actually the prince.
I like that, yeah.
The real prince is Samuel or something.
That's a great theory.
That's my thought. I think, I don't know if that's a super theory. I think it's fairly laid out of there's a clear mystery to him and that we have this mysterious prince to come again.
And could be that person, yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thought, at least.
I like that thought. Yeah, so that Samuel legend, so maybe the emperor's just lying about that.
Or maybe it was maybe the emperor isn't lying, but the king
thinks that's the truth, but the king
maybe the Mashavi king had one last trick to pull and actually did save his son.
Mm-hmm. that could very well be book 2 things that are revealed. I think you're right about that. Joe Odom, tell us if not. Yeah. So
please don't spoil that.
No.
I'm looking forward to book 2. Don't do that to me.
But anything else with the world building?
I mean, everything with the SAR people was great, and I really want to know more about them. Also, why the heck is I will get her name. Saul. Tzal. Saul.
Okay.
Is she uniquely powerful? Like, she seems to be held in a unique position of like even other Southerners and people around there go like, oh yeah, no, she's something else. So are there more people like her that powerful, that skilled? What is the nature of all that? So I want to know more about her people and her with the world.
So I was asking for way too long. Who is she? Does she have powers?
Yeah.
Is she more than just person in South Desert person?
Because she does
kept
seem
that open-ended enough.
Strangely strong, perceptive, all these things of just superhuman levels. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe she's just licking salt all the time, and salt gives you superpowers.
By salt.
Yeah.
It's actually a Marvel. Book 2 is a superhero book. Okay.
And once the Black Wren starts ingesting salt pills every day, they become superpowers.
That's your best theory, yes. Yeah. The world overall was very immersive in that way. It's more so I guess if there was a feature of the world you liked the most, would it be geography, setting, history? Was there something that stood out to you?
History, by far.
History stuff? Yeah.
I'm curious to know more. I loved everything we got and asked more questions than I got. More questions were asked by the end than the answers that I got, and that's a good thing.
Makes you curious.
Yep.
Agree. Okay, Prose, what'd you give out of 5 stars?
Prose, I gave, again, a 4.25. Really great.
Same here. 4.25, really great prose.
Damn, the dialogue's good.
Yeah.
Like, oof. Scenes that handled by a lot of other authors would have felt a little bit more cringy, maybe too on the nose, but Odom was able to handle these really sensitive or really trod upon topics that you've seen done before with subtlety, and yet felt real from the characters coming from their mouths. So I loved that. Dialogue's fantastic.
It's weird in the sense that sentences that could have sounded flowery and wordy were more so profound but succinct. Everything kind of was. If you could think of a longer, flowery way to say the same thing, but she seemed to choose the most effective word that would work and make the sentence shorter than it needs to be, but still get across the beauty of the longer sentence. I kept reading that in a way of going, that doesn't need that. That's exactly how to describe it. And everything seems almost as if you're being told it matter-of-factly. It comes across that way of matter-of-fact, succinct, but also is poetic in the way that things are described. I try to pull up quotes to shows an example of this. I know you got a big long one. Is that one more the dialogue or is it more descriptors?
It's a whole scene. Just the dialogue between them and just how emotional, raw, and the scene itself would come across very awkwardly by other writers or just on honestly any television show. Like I've seen this exact type of scene done wrong and everywhere else, but I loved how it was done here. So, but what quote do you have that's much shorter?
I have quick one-liners here. So, for example, here's a description of what I was talking about here. Azetla wondered if Everson even knew of his. Let's restart that. Azetla wondered if Everson even knew of this shadow behind him. She was just a plain texture draped against the dark, arms folded, beautifully still. End sentence. Now, again, these are simple sentences, but well and perfectly described, and it also sets you in a good tone. I got the tone that came across to me fit the setting, fit the world, and the dialogue, which you're about to get into. The characters also, I guess, what about this dialogue scene do you want to set up and say what you liked about it? Because is there something that just this dialogue scene does, or that all the dialogue scenes kind of do and get across?
Before I get into that one, I did have a shorter one as well. I think in the exact same vein is short and yet incredibly effective. So this scene is Azetla is finally Wesley asks him basically what do you what is it about your religion that like you hate? What is it about your religion that you hate ours so much and that you look down on our faith? Like, we actually still acknowledge your God. We actually we don't disavow the existence of your God, yet you disavow the existence of ours. Like, isn't that just arrogance? And so Azzetla sums up his feelings toward this other faith in a really short, concise way of, yours mix the sacred and profane, intimate, the sacred with the profane, until everything is muddled, and you can't possibly know the difference anymore. He said at last, quiet with untouchable certainty. I had to stop on that one and just think about further on of like how that's really meant. And then he continues on. You mimic your old practice of human sacrifice in the ritualized way you kill us on the Red River Festival, the jackal said. A half-hearted thing, really. You skirt your own god's demands for clean and innocent blood by feeding them what you deem to be vile and worthless. Your gods are mere nature and clay to you, and you bend them to your need. I love that.
That's a great line.
I love that line. Mm-hmm. It's, one, how relatively short that scene is to encompass Azzetla's aversion, his strength of his own faith, and the denial of the Morrowians. So well handled.
Yes. It feels like all the prose is consistently that, where it's succinct, profound, and you can't really think. There's almost no fluff to the prose, I guess, is a good way of saying that. And this dialogue scene, even though it's longer, well, can you set up this dialogue scene? Is it between Sarez and Azzetla? Okay.
Yeah, so Azzetla and Sarez, after Azzetla has been beaten by by some members of the Black Wren, and then saved by Sarez and Joseph, all these people. The couple days after, now that Sarez has admitted to Azzetla, hey, us and the rest of the commanders have put forth naming you our commander. Mm-hmm. And Sarez wanted to open up about the rift between them, of their last grand fight, that we've known throughout the book that there's been some rift between them, that they used to be bitter enemies, that they are now, if not as friendly as Azzetla is with Joseph, on friendlier terms and have each other's backs. And there is a degree of respect between each other. And so, so I'll go right into Sarez trying to talk up to Azzetla and be very vulnerable with him. Sarez waved the comment away as a given, but a moment later, in a low voice, he said, "Our last fight." Azzetla raised his head and stiffened. That was not what he wanted to talk about today. 5 years old, that fight, and the memory was much too vivid. The miserable colors of it needed no refreshing. You know, the others still talk about it, even if you and I don't, Sarez said. He rubbed his hand over his face. Gods, I hated you, with every last drop of my blood. Azzetla said nothing. What good did it do to say, and I you? Especially when Azzetla's hatred was in a slightly shallower grave than Sarez's. And the truth is, Sarez said, canting his lower jaw to the side in thought, I was terrified of you. Azzetla furrowed his eyebrows. That hardly made sense. Sarez could always win, would always win. He was by far the better swordsman and the better brawler. What do you mean, Sarez? I didn't want a chance being bested by a Mashavi. I thought that if it got bloody enough, the captain might step in, and he would have favored you. Azzetla made no such assumption. It infuriated me that he was so accepting of you. That, Sarez smiled unhappily, and I was convinced that you would prevail, as you essentially did. Azzetla stared, incredulous. Sarez, You won. Handedly. I don't know how in all the desert you could have forgotten that part. I couldn't call that winning, Azetla. Yours was the actual victory, moral and otherwise. Azetla scoffed loudly. Whatever else might be true, that wasn't. There hadn't been a single moral thought in his mind or body. He wanted nothing but blood. He had hated with such burning ferocity, it all but charred the skin. Sars narrowed his eyes and spoke on. You were injured from the battle a week before. I know I didn't say anything, but I did see. I might have died if you hadn't dragged me down, and I hated you for it. Your left arm, was it? It wasn't even an injury, Sars. It was scarcely a bruise, Azetla said. Yes, it had been his left arm. It had affected him nowise, and pulling Sars down from his horse had been mere battle instinct, not kindness. Sars waved that away too. He was still working towards something. He would not let Azetla hinder him or alter his view of their history. When I made that challenge, I really imagined it was like one of the nursery stories. I was the honorable soldier and you were the sly, crafty jackal, fooling everyone. I was to be the savior, you see. Sars gave a somber grin and shook his head. For the gods' sakes, man, you don't begin to know how you bloodied my pride. Sars' self-abasing honesty pressed against Azetla. In a quiet voice, he said, well, it's easy for we Southerners to do that to each other. He waited for Sars to correct him, to make that subtle differentiation that the Tracoans and the Tsar did between true Southerners and Southerners from the East. But he didn't. You only had your jackal knife for some reason, Sagam, Azetla corrected instinctively. Yes, that. But you were winning. You had me at your mercy, and then you just let me go. Azetla tried to interrupt, but Sars wouldn't let him. No, Azetla, I saw it. You let me slip away completely. I didn't understand it. But I was going to win now, so I didn't care, did I? Sars shook his head. If I had killed you right then and there, no one would have said a word. Not by the law. Azetla held the folds in his arms too tightly and looked awry of Sars. He remembered seeing Sars' livid face and anticipating the final thrust. The tip of the blade had been at Azetla's neck, the onlooking soldiers shouting for or against, or to stop the whole damn thing. The misery of that moment, the feeling of failure upon failure, was still too clear and sharp in his mind. He had not lost on purpose. He had lost as plainly and as desperately as a man can lose. Azetla had provoked Sars, he thought. He didn't remember the details, insulted him or his gods most likely, but he remembered how satisfying it had been. He had been so rash then. How time did temper one. I'll tell you why I didn't kill you, Sars said, his voice weary. It was a terrifying thing. Questions came to my mind as though shot in from the outside. What would the men think of me? Would they ever trust me again? Why had Captain Hodge accepted you when I hadn't? Why hadn't you killed me? Why was I the one doing this? No, Azetla, listen. Azetla strained to speak, strained to disagree. The humility it took for Sars to speak as he did now was almost unbearable. Azetla could not hope to meet it. And then I remembered you pulling me down to safety in that battle, and it took the strength out of my hand. Until that moment, I knew what I was and what you were, and that knowledge just turned to mist in my hand, burned off by the sun, and I couldn't get it back. By blood, I wanted it back so badly. Do you understand it, Azetla? That loss of anger when you need it most? Azetla shook his head slowly. His anger may have been quiet and regulated, but he never, ever lost it. I swear by blood, it was like I'd been struck. There I was with steel on your throat and not a damn clue as to why. Sars looked up at the ground, pressing his lips together. I've sometimes wondered if it was your own desert god who doused me. Zetla's throat ached, and his eyes stung. He couldn't have spoken if he wanted to. All he could think of was how, at that time, he had hated being shown mercy by a Makar. He had wanted nothing from Sars, least of all his kindness. It was still so hard to take. I do have my pride, Azetla, Sars said slowly. Proper Makarish pride, and a love for my people as you have for yours. So bear that in mind as I say this. I trust you, but it has not been easy for me. I used to believe the most unforgivable trail to my gods and my people was to trust a Mushabi. It is a common belief. Hakir, Sable, and the others, you know. Saras sighed gravely. It has taken me nearly every day of my 8 years in the Black Wren to look you in the eye and see you as a brother. So you should be patient with my brothers. I know my people. Some of my kin are far kinder and wiser, but some are just like me. Anyhow, keep it in mind they're nervous here. Like this. Scared. Saras fell quiet, staring into the fragrant slit at the bottom of his cup. He was trying to make Zetla understand his own without speaking too unfavorably of them, so he had sacrificed himself as an example. Zetla was shamed to the bloody ground by it. At length, Zetla forced his mouth to speak. I was no different then, Saras. I was maybe much worse. Undoubtedly, in fact. But you're hard on yourself, and on your people. So says the Moshevi, who never fails to berate his own king, nobility, and all those half-pagan Moshevis of Moreau. I think those are your exact words. Continue on, but I love that whole scene. It's...
One of two things has to happen.
Holy shit. So good.
Either you owe Jail Oda money or she owes you money for the audiobook reading of the entire book. So either you get royalties or you need to pay for the copyright on the entire...
I'm sorry, Jail Oda. Reading a lot. Okay. Tell me what quote in there do I pull out? I have to take the whole scene in context.
I think the quote about his anger and that it never left him in that portion, that would have been the quote probably. But
probably.
Hey, great scene.
Great scene of the reason why I gave all of that.
Yeah.
Is mainly the sense of vulnerability of that, the concept of a scene of a character overcoming their hate and of acceptance of another and like realizing their prejudice. In many other ways, it comes across as preachy, cringe, just there's a reader satisfaction of self-flagellation. But in this one, it's unique where Zetla is cringing for us and going like, is uncomfortable by the humility and the vulnerability it is, and just going like, especially in this world. Again, this is not the 21st century world. It's like, Zetla also has prejudice toward other groups of people, and so he doesn't even see Saras' prejudice as like unique, you know, because he also hates them too. Like it's a part of their culture and their history, and so him opening up about this, especially for Zetla, who still holds that hate in his heart, is.
And it makes him more uncomfortable because someone's apologizing and he hasn't lost that hate. Yeah. So he's looking at somebody who he almost doesn't want to feel that sympathy.
Oh yeah,
that empathy.
Because then
that means he would have to feel the same, and he doesn't want that.
It takes away the villain,
and
he needs the villain as he wanted. Where Saras says like, "Do you understand what it is like to lose the hate when you need it the most?" Yeah. And is that like going? No, I've never lost it. Oof. And just the little things of, especially what good would it do for me to say, and I, you, especially when, you know, the grave is a lot shallower for me. And so that hatred is still like, I found that whole scene and that dynamic wonderful.
Yes.
And probably one of my favorite scenes in the book.
Do you agree too? Because trying to describe the prose, maybe another word to use is it's somewhat on the nose, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to conflate those two ideas of usually when you say something is, hey, succinct, on the nose, it is what it is. That
it's too blunt and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So often that can be connotation of, oh, look how it's just what you see is what you get. But that's the thing is what you see is both blunt, succinct. However, it's something about, we're in the prose section. When you get this far into the Tudor Ramble videos, this is where we get full pretentious, full like, okay, you made it this far. But it's the subtext. It's the subtlety. It's what is said is said. However,
what isn't said?
What isn't said?
That's the
it's
wonderful
what's
nature.
Between the lines, what's between the sentences is very neat. And that was a great... Go ahead.
It's the little lines like... he couldn't... what was the... I'm trying to actually give the actual lines, not the quote, but... Yeah, damn it. I am not going to find it at my last second. But
here's one. I got an example. Oh, go ahead.
When the grave for Azetla was much shallower than Sara's, like what isn't said there? That's short, succinct, but and clear, but not incredibly blunt. The blunt way to do it is like, and Azetla knew that he hated Sarez for a lot longer than Sarez hated him.
Yeah, she wanted to be blunt. So it's maybe succinct or blunt's the wrong word. It's more efficient.
I think succinct.
Succinct, efficient, not blunt, but succinct. Here's an example of one that's gets a little bit of an analogy here. But Sarez was Makarish. He was also just a man. Azetla struggled to reconcile these two truths, so they sat there, neither fact quite touching the other in his mind. What does that say? It's talking about how Azetla's realizing that Sarez is both a man and Makar, somebody that, in the scene that you just showed there, could be somebody worthy of empathy, but also is somebody that is the villain character. And so instead of just saying that as I'm talking badly out loud of, look, villain, bad, good, it's using a bit more than that and saying that these two thoughts never, okay, you know how we were talking earlier as well of all these characters such as Molly, etc., have to look at Azetla and don't really think or try to think deeper about this person is both somebody who's protecting me, yet is the jackal, is this culture, this person I'm supposed to hate. And it's showing Azetla's also feeling the same way. If these thoughts aren't crossing his mind, you have to keep it separate that although this is a man, this is still Makarish. This is still somebody you're supposed to hate. And it says all that with just Sarez with Makarish, she's also just a man. Azetla struggled to reconcile these two truths. So they sat there, neither fact quite touching the other in his mind. And you completely comes across great. Yeah, really, I think emphasizing really impressive prose, debut author. That's what's really cool to see too. Debut author with this. Wow. Bravo to that.
I really do like this prose. I think the descriptions are also really well done. Descriptions of scenes. We don't really get too much of like particular action scenes, so I'm not sure how that element of the prose is going to be handled. Maybe there's going to be more action in book 2. Don't know. So I don't particularly know how that's really going to be handled. So this one we get the great dialogue and descriptions. So I think they're both handled incredibly well. I thought it was really great.
Flaws, though? Any flaws in the prose? Though there's one glaring one.
The lack of description, like why salt? Is that no?
Okay, the answer to the salt, I'm pretty sure it is about like Middle Eastern salt preservation food stuff. I think it's called. I think that's a simple answer, right?
Could be, but I want the answer.
I think it's that simple.
No, it's on the cover of the book. I want an actual explanation.
Yeah, you know what's also on the cover? A desert.
I want the author to tell me. Why?
I'm taking my headcanon. Okay.
What's the biggest flaw?
What's the title of the book?
By Blood, by Salt.
How many times? I didn't see a lot of buys of by the. I expected more. I expected more of that. What's the word? Because by Blood, by Salt, not alliteration. No. What's the word? Repetition. What's the literary trick? God damn it! The trick where you do. See you next episode. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
Boom. All right.